So, I want to make a video to go ahead and give a statement that at this point I've more than earned to be able to make. And I'm naming names. Alright? So, I've had to deal with the situation that I'm dealing with from 2002 until currently. Alright? Putting the pieces together, I've come to realize that ultimately there were quite a few people that ended up committing recruitment fraud and accepting, recruitment bonuses for their military careers through, like, for example, stealing my identity and having me enlisted despite the factor of the erroneous enlistment factor. All right. Now, having to learn the bureaucratic ins and outs and everything, and there are skills that I ended up learning throughout the years. Like, for example, coming to realize, hey, I was signed up for that mechanic program, which honestly, pretty cool. Not gonna lie. But to go ahead and be like, oh, no, we were not going to let you travel at all unless you were able to go ahead and learn how to fix a fucking car. Alright? Now, trying to be, overzealous and overprepared, that whole thing. If you wanted to make sure that somebody knew how to, like, for example, the basics, changing a tire, stuff like that, no big deal. Understandable. Making somebody learn the entire ins and outs of a car and learn how to repair every factor of a car, that's a whole different story. Basically being like, you don't get to go anywhere or do anything, and you get to be isolated from the entirety of society until you get the task done of going ahead and repairing in full one vehicle. No lights on the dash whatsoever. Which, by the way, then going ahead and sabotaging that same vehicle in the aspect of taking a fucking nail gun, putting it into the tire and being like, oh, no, still a light on the dash. Because, yeah, you put a fucking nail inside the tire. That's gonna leave, you're gonna need to get that plugged, but to actually take a nail gun and but yeah, names of people that really need to get checked into on this. The people to be suspected: Andrew Olofsson, Adrian Zabor, Joshua Green, Humberto Menendez. Alright. I don't remember what Steve's last name is, but Steve. Which, by the way, Steve, you're an asshole. Like, thoroughbred, full-blown asshole, nonetheless. Mark, this has you written all over it. Especially considering that wasn't a difficult piece to put together, considering that, when you see the same person up in New York and the same person down in North Carolina for years, yeah, it's not hard to put the pieces together of who's trying to sabotage your life, and who's profiting off of having you financially abused. Then to go ahead and basically use the justification of, oh, forgot the Civil Rights Act existed, Like, with the basic attitude of, no, we were just giving history lesson. Because before segregation and everything, despite the fact of the Americans with Disabilities Act, people that are disabled, they were considered and deemed unacceptable to society. They were kept inside, isolated away from the world, were not allowed to socialize. They were considered less than lower class citizens. They deserved to be treated less than even immigrants. That really was the mentality from that thinking, which, by the way, really fucked up thinking. But the amount of cheeks that I ended up having to turn because y'all, and can't forget Frank. No, the role of Frank played in that, but basically the amount of people that wanted to go ahead and keep their recruitment bonuses, have my identity stolen, contribute to financially abusing me to prevent me from ever being able to get anywhere in life because fuck me. You know, I was an asshole when I was younger, so I needed an attitude adjustment. You know, my punishment was making sure that I financially would never be able to get away from my family and have to go back to abuse. Because no matter how hard I tried, it was never going to be good enough. So, and then to basically put me in the position of, no, the choices that you had to make because of your opinions on, you know, the military, which, by the way, my opinions on the military is the factor that George Bush, when it came to the Iraq and Afghanistan war, yeah, considering the false pretenses that it was started under, I personally think that George Bush should have been tried as a war criminal. With the details that ended up coming out, such an egregious stance to have. So to also have me go ahead and learn fucking rules of engagement, international war crimes, international human rights violations, civil rights violations, like having me learn all that. The only reason that I'm even willing to go ahead and be like, hey, I have no problem continuing going forward, going through that military civilian program, you know, that accommodates people with disabilities. Because at this point, when you've learned what you needed to learn and spent decades, not years, decades, having to go ahead and learn, at that point, why throw it all the fuck away? At least justify the underutilization of my time. Justify it with showing me that there could be an easier path going forward. You know, all this because other people wanted to be greedy pricks. That's really what that boiled down to. So, anyway, hopefully this whole situation with Tommy Tuberville, you know, gets addressed and everything. And, you know, everything that ended up getting taught throughout the years, I could actually go ahead and get to use going forward, you know, because at this point, with the medical malfeasance that I dealt with, it's going to leave me an amputee. I'd like to be able to know that I'm going to be able to get the financial stability and, you know, well-paying job that'll go ahead and make sure that I can afford to have my own house, that I don't need to live with anybody because I've had some of the worst fucking roommates in history. Imagine every single person that you've lived with being a fucking thief, constantly stealing everything that you owned and ever have acquired. 6 fucking burglaries. You understand my point? At this point, I'm naming names, and every single one of you that end up getting prosecuted by the Department of Justice, that's not my fucking fault, because the funny thing is, I'm not the one who signed me up. Somebody else was. My reason that I wasn't willing to enlist was because of the factor of understanding, hey, with a disability that would be disqualifying, you know, not much opportunities to be able to go forward anyway. But the military remedied that now with the program that accommodates people with disabilities. So, alright. So now there's a way to be able to go forward. Cool. Now let me be able to make my own money for myself and be able to get so far the fuck away from my family that I never have to see their faces again after the bullshit that they pulled. Because you know what? Whatever complicity that they ended up having, you know that they weren't going to be willing to have me put through the amount that I got put through, including those, over a half a decade of getting eaten up by fucking parasites? Without in some way or another financially profiting off of it.